Well, if you're going through the licensing process right now, I'd say sooner rather than later. If you're still in that pre-licensing phase, you have to make sure that you get your live scan fingerprints done. Some dealers that I come in contact with, this is a challenge for them because of something in their past, something in their history 10 years ago, let's just say, some type of infraction, you name it. What does work is get out in front of that, get your live scan fingerprints done, get them done with the sheriff's office or the police station themselves. Don't go through a third party. Don't go through the UPS store. It's going to cost you $20 more at minimum. It's going to take you roughly 2 to 3 more weeks for that to actually get into the Department of Justice system, which it has to be in before your inspector can actually approve you to become a licensed dealer. So I'd say that's number one. I'd say number two would be, if you were to really ask me, this is one that's a little different because most people aren't thinking about this. In a state like California, insurance isn't a requirement. So you can get licensed without insurance, without dealer insurance at all. You can't do that with your bond. You need your bond in place and your inspector will make sure that you have it. Whereas insurance, you don't actually need to have insurance. So a good portion of dealers will run without it. Here's the reason why I think it's important for you to think about that, and it's a tip from me to you guys to really start thinking about it sooner rather than later. Number one, you're going to need to know what that cost is, because eventually, whether it's today, whether it's next week, whether it's next month, you're going to be looking for financing. You're going to be looking for your auction to be able to give you a line of credit. And without insurance in place, most banks are not going to do it. So having insurance in place, or at least knowing the cost of that inevitable insurance expense, is a very important thing. The other thing that's important is that insurance has changed quite a bit over the years. It's changed in terms of, you used to be able to get insurance at any given time. You'd been in business 2-3 years and you just decided to never have insurance and now you wanted it. Well, now all of a sudden you could just pick up and get it. Now you can't do that. If you've been in business 2 or 3 years, you've never had insurance, the insurance company is going to be asking you, why have you never had insurance? Furthermore, why would I want to take the risk on you at this point, just because now all of a sudden you want insurance? They have to have their checks and balance now, kind of their checks where they need to be at, and that's one of them, is have you had insurance? So the longer you go being in business without insurance, the harder it's going to be for you to inevitably get insurance. So 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the road, it's going to be exponentially harder to get your dealer insurance versus getting it, it's within 2, 3, 4, 5 months of starting the business, which gets me back to the point of, you're still in the pre-licensing phase, but if you have to pay $250 a month for insurance and a $900 down payment, you probably should know that, I think, before you even open up shop. These are the really intricacies of the things that, at the end of the day, it's really tough to catch this in conversations with, if they're just the cheapest bond agency on the block. A lot of times the reason why is because they've got to get you off the phone as quick as possible. The other reason is because they're having somebody answer the phone that English may not be their first language. Bonds may not be their second language. Used car dealers may not be their third language. And for me, it's A, B, and C of what exactly it is that I do every single day of the week, and our staff as well. Wonderfully embedded in the name, Your Car Dealer Bond. Right? And the third tip, if I could just fly through that, is as you're going through this licensing process, you're going to, at the end of this, there's going to be certain expenses you're going to end up with, like a lease, like a bond, that you're going to have in place before you actually go and see your inspector. So in fact, you're going to end up having weeks, potentially even months, and I've seen that, where dealers have 6 months, 7 months of paying for things, a lease, a bond, and they haven't even been able to open up shop because they were not extra diligent in their paperwork. They were not extra diligent in making sure that the names of the business were consistent along their resale permit, along with their fictitious name statement, their business license. They had inconsistencies that ended up costing them 2-3 weeks down the line, and it became quite expensive for them, as you can imagine, and frustrating, because the last thing you want to do is have your momentum stopped with something as simple as, we just didn't put an extra comma here and now the names don't match identically, where we put a period on this fictitious name statement, but on the resale permit it doesn't have that, or we have a name spelled out but here we have the abbreviation for it. And you'd be surprised how often this happens. We see it again. Out of 15 dealers, brand new, newly licensed dealers on a monthly basis that we see, I'd say at minimum 5 of them are stopped up and have to revise something in their process. Those are the things that we try to help them out. It would be closer to 10, except for we're able to help about 5 of those folks iron out some of their issues. Some of it's just their indecisiveness. Some of it's documents that we haven't sourced, so we don't in fact know what they look like. Those are inspector documents that they'll be sourcing. So what I would say is that the consistency, making sure that there's absolute consistency across your paperwork, is going to help you get to your inevitable finish line. Again, light years ahead of, and a lot of dollar signs ahead of where you normally might end up finishing that race.
Okay. Now, tell me, do you currently associate yourself with, or are you a part of any type of dealer associations or any kind of memberships to, I don't want to call them clubs, but anything that kind of keeps your hand on the pulse of the industry?
Great question. This is the Independent Auto Dealer Association. You might hear it as IADAC. IADAC's got a ton of information for used car dealers. It stands for the Independent Auto Dealer Association of California. It's got a ton of information where it's very specific to used car dealers. I have been a member of IADAC for a year, probably, I don't know, at least 5 years. As a company, we've supported them. I was just recently at a conference. They have a semi-annual conference. I was there. It was up in Sacramento. It was a 2-day. It was a 2-day event for me. Their particular conference was only 1 day, but it's a full, complete day of information, all things for used car dealers. Again, they're not talking about jewelry making or anything else. It's very specific to California, the trends that they're seeing in California. What are car dealers getting sued for these days? What is it that marketing trends are starting to work better than others? Is it a certain platform that they're connecting on better than others? They really start to dissect and get slightly more information on these things as these vendors really start to divulge in some of the information that they're privy to, and as focusing and working in this used car dealer niche. We can't be all things to all people. We stay in our lane of what we do and what we do well. And there's DMS carriers, there's VIN scanning companies, there's transporters, and each one of them brings a slight bit of expertise that they really start to divulge in as they bring value into some of these conferences. So if you ever get a chance and they're coming to a neighborhood near you, I would highly recommend. They do one in the Southern California area once a year. They do one in Sacramento usually. They used to do it in Reno. but I think the turnout wasn't nearly as good. They started doing it in Sacramento, and it makes sense. A lot of the head members, a lot of their board members are actually up in Northern California, so it's a little easier for them. The one thing I will say about the Independent Auto Dealer Association is you're going to get a lot of dealers where they've been in the business since the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, or it's a second generation business, where you're getting a wealth of information, and but you also get some dealers that are stuck in a very specific market. They might be up in a very rural part of the state, and so they don't have to evolve, or they don't have to mold they're change the mold of the business quite as much as, let's say, a dealer from the Bay Area would have. If they were in business from 20 years ago till now, their model probably has changed quite a bit more than the dealer, let's say, out in, I don't know, call it Redding or out in Ukiah, right, where they're going to be slightly a different, they're going to need to evolve far less to remain competitive, just because of the sheer number of competitors that they're running into. So for what it's worth, I definitely have stayed in tune with the association. I think eventually, to be honest with you, we've got far more dealers that we bond on an annual basis than the Independent Auto Dealer Association has had probably in the last 5 years combined. So I think at some point we're going to start feeding content to our dealers in a very specific way, to where we're kind of going to create our own dealer association, if you will, equipped with its own benefit packages, equipped with its own education packages. I mean, we're really starting to work on some things in the business to where, again, we want to stay in our lane, but our lane is used car dealers. And we understand there's other areas of the business and that a used car dealer is going to need. They're going to need it today, they're going to need it tomorrow, they're going to need it next month or next year. Eventually, we're looking to help them seal up different areas, stay current with the times. Some of my background was really, really rooted in the Silicon Valley, which gave me insights to technology that some folks may not even understand is available. Things to really help their dealerships get to another level so that they can not just worry about running the business like it was run 20 years ago, but actually evolved. The farmer of today is not doing the same thing to grow crop as he was 20 years ago. That farmer's evolved quite a bit. And the only reason I mention that is I'm in Fresno and city of agriculture, and talking to different farmer. They're sowing seed, they're doing the exact same. You'd think it's the same thing. It's actually not. It's actually much different, but you'd have to evolve with the times. And as a newly licensed dealer going into 2020, some of the same methods you were using 5 years ago even to get customers isn't the way that you're going to get them tomorrow or next month. So we're helping dealers really get their hands around some of these things. And even more importantly is, what are they getting sued for? Because on a monthly basis, this is changing. Certainly on a yearly basis, this is changing. What are those things that you're actually getting sued for as a car dealer, where all your profits could vanish in a matter of weeks with the lawyers? Where is that? Where's the tripwire, right? And who's actually educating the dealers to know where that's at? Everybody knows that's taken the pre-licensing education knows that they're getting you ready to take the test. They're getting you ready for a certain set of procedures that you're going to have to go through to get your license. But then after that, what? There's continuing education, but now you're talking about, again, getting you to where you renew your license. Where is it that's the in-between area that teaches you how to run your business, right? Where do you turn to? Who's your mentor? The guy that you find at the auction, right? Where is it that you can get honest information from? Yes, they're going to be very helpful. You're going to chew the meat. You're going to spit out the bones. Sometimes they're going to put you up on a great tip. Sometimes it's not quite so much. Maybe it's just a dead-end street. If they were giving you all the greatest tips on the planet, wouldn't you be eating their lunch? at some point, these are the things that we've started to encapsulate to be able to bring value in different ways to our used car dealers.
Okay, very nice. And do you have any type of relationship with the Department of Insurance?
Wow, the Department of Insurance, that is a long relationship between the two of us. I've done some work with them over the years. I've created filings, modified filings. I've worked with data analysts of different levels at the Department of Insurance. They're quite a dynamic group, as a matter of fact, much different than the Department of Motor Vehicles, who, at the very least, I will say, has always seemed like they're at least several steps behind, to be very kind to them. The Department of Insurance has always proven to be very organized. They may take some time to get things done, but it's the sheer number of products, insurance products, that are being filed in California as a state. There's probably more bureaucracy than needs to be, just like with anything, but I would say more so their issue is just sheer volume. Every single filing, every single insurance product you've ever heard of, from renter's insurance to car insurance to motorcycle insurance, house insurance, used car dealer insurance, they all have a filing, which is probably 100 to 150 pages of paperwork that explains every single nook and cranny of that insurance product. That really was my wheelhouse, is understanding, submitting that paperwork relative to the used car dealer, to a lot of commercial products, but really specific to the used car dealer insurance product, and really working with their analysts in the department to make sure that the information was actuarially sound, to make sure that it was rated not excessively, but also that the rating was adequate. That was a word that they always used, was it also has to be adequate, because in 3 years, if you end up going belly up, you're going to leave a lot of used car dealers by the wayside with unpaid claims, which they also didn't want. So you had to find that happy medium for the Department of Insurance to get them filings. So it's a very intricate process. It was a very insightful process to work with them, and they really helped me get my game to another level, because you have to focus on the details in a much different way for the Department of Insurance.